Right now on Full Custom Garage, Master Metalman Ian Roussel looks back on the best builds of Season 2.
The second season was all about pushing the builds further.
I thought it was going to be good, but it's spectacular.
Wow, I was blown away.
I really wanted to do stuff I had never done before, you know, venture into the great unknown.
He got in deep with this project.
I was thinking of, hey, I'm gonna throw a wrench in the fire on this guy.
It's just a pile of parts.
Well, that's why you're the man for this project.
Going into this bold-faced and fearless. First project I wanted to do was a 1948 Packard. It was just sitting around at my friend Don's shop. I wanted to turn it into a custom lead sled for my friend Tom. The biggest challenge in the chop on this Packard was the big bulge in the back of the roof. I took care of that. I wanted to show it to Tom. Uh-oh, there goes the neighborhood. What's up, man?
Wow,
Got a car.
this is the Packard, huh?
Yeah.
So being excited about seeing this Packard underway, I gave Ian a call and I said, hey, I gotta come down. I gotta take a look at this thing.
And just putting it on the ground and chopping the top, he loves it.
Now that I see it here in person, I like it as a four-door.
I stopped on these roof panels. My next step is to throw them on the English wheel and get these guys tacked in. I got a way of doing things by myself, but hey, there's another body in the room. Get to work.
To be able to work with Ian today is a real special treat.
This is a really complex thing, creating a big roof for a chop-top car. The whole thing is establishing this nice roof line. I want to minimize the amount of body filler in the end. So it's really just like push it, hold it into position, and tack weld it so it stays. You know, it's the stuff you read about in magazines. So I stuck them in the car and had them hold up the sheet metal. I would have to come up with a bunch of weird contraptions to hold it in place. Here he is doing it. He was pretty excited.
Ian, in my opinion, is today's Ed Roth. Ed Roth was a wild customizer who was very innovative. Ian is just carrying that torch.
What this thing does is it sucks the metal together so it will create a little more of a dome.
Ian likes to think outside the box, doesn't care about what anybody else thinks, and builds what he wants.
So this is gonna crown it out a little bit more as well as take away all those hammer marks. I'm really not that familiar with an English wheel. I've only used it a couple times. Eastwood had this really simple, portable one, and it worked out pretty darn good. Pretty good. Yeah. Getting the sheet metal tacked in place, that's it. That's the car. The line of it's established. It's just a matter of finish work. If you like it, here we go. I'll put it all together and on to the next.
It's a killer chop.
Once we got the roof dialed in, Tom had to take off. So I got the thing painted and finished because I really wanted to show it to him complete and ready to drive.
When I first sat inside the Packard, man, I couldn't help but feel, man, this is cool. I'm ready to cruise, man. And I am one cool dude because I'm cruising this thing.
This was a very emotional experience. We took that car out of the carport and I was angry. I was just thinking we were going in a bad direction. I pulled through.
It's really indescribable. I can't talk about how grateful I am because there's no words to express it. I mean, other than getting in there and cruising down the boulevard with a big grin on my face, there's no real way to express how just excited I am. It's a cool car and I cannot wait to show it off.
Tom has helped me out with a lot of stuff in the past. So going through all this extra effort made it worthwhile. He's really happy with the end result. This Packard was not just finished and delivered. This thing is an evolving project. I have it in the shop now. We're developing it into a whole new thing. The next project was for my friend Victor, and who knows what's coming through the door. He's always got a lot of wild ideas. So Victor comes in with a set of blueprints, and he's talking 100 miles an hour.
The other night I was thinking of a project that I need. I got a retail plant rental company. I need for my nursery to have like a little car, spectacle, something like people would see like, what the heck is this thing?
If Victor wants a spectacle, he came to the right place. Victor wanted to build this VW kit car. It's called a Boonie Bug. He found these old plans.
Remember, like everything we do, this means nothing. This means someone has built something like this, so ours cannot be like this.
I think we're gonna take these plans and funkify them. We're gonna go full disco. I think it's gonna be cool. First thing I needed to do was build a framework for the body. It rides on an existing shortened bus chassis, but there's no structure for the whole kit part of it. The whole thing with this vehicle is like a triple threat, right? It's driving around, it's looking so cool. When it's parked, it's doing the same thing. And then the sides fold up, and it still drives around. So it's a quadruple threat. It does 4 things really good. I got the whole structure for the body built. I really wanted to show it to Victor. There's always kind of a friendly competition between us. I wanted to nail my concept and sell him on it.
Hey, Ian, what's up? When I first walked in, as usual, more was done than I expected. I love the way you angle that thing. I've been thinking and dreaming about this too since I left. I said, I want to put, kick the angle down. I didn't know it was going to be forward or backward, but you're reading my mind.
Instead of the doors like the plan showed, the whole wall is open like that, both of them.
That's
and then
amazing,
it says
yeah.
ultra green, so when you park it.
I was thinking of, hey, I'm gonna throw a wrench in the fire on this guy. I'm gonna have him make something raise up because I want my sign to show. And I come in and you raise up the door and my signs go there so the guy like outthinks me. But yeah, no, that came out crazy, yeah.
The build of this was pretty inspired and quick, so I got it finished up and ready for paint and interior.
We had no idea what this thing was gonna come out to be. It's beyond my expectations. It's not a show car. The little nursery car took it to the next level. This thing gonna be all dirty and in the mud.
We lucked out with this engine. This thing rips. Everything has held together great. It runs great. I almost wish I didn't have to give it up. I was really getting attached to this thing. Being able to drive it on its inaugural run was really cool. Performed perfect. I think Victor's gonna take this thing more places than the nursery. So in addition to the paint, Victor went all out on the interior. He's got custom vinyl interior, 2-tone, special seat, gold and green. He's got a custom steering wheel. They put AstroTurf inside instead of carpeting. I mean, this thing's looking good.
The reason why me and Ian hit it off so good is he's creative.
The thing I like most about this was that it is a stand-alone concept. You're not going to take it to a car show and judge it against anything, so there's a certain freedom in that. My friend Jack has had this custom Econo Line pickup for years. He's got some really wild ideas. He wants to push it even further.
So we're going to have to take about this much out of the middle. I want the top to be about this high.
Jack threw a total curveball at this project. I was thinking of wild paint schemes, and he's talking about cutting this thing apart. So you want to section the entire body?
Yeah.
It's a pretty good looking truck like it is, man.
I know.
Sure you don't want to just start on another one? This is,
No. This has to be the one.
Jack showed me these drawings he had, and we went right to work. We had to modify almost every panel. Usually I'm the guy standing back assessing the whole thing, and that's the nice thing about having another professional in the room is you got 4 eyes instead of 2.
Still has to come down more, just a hair,
Well,
1/8 inch.
I don't have any hair.
That's good, that's better.
A great thing about the way Jack thinks on a project is he's not really wishy-washy about things. He says yes or no very efficiently, and that's really what I'm all about. Make a decision, stick it, and move on. Once we got into the back rear window, Jack left the entire thing up to me. Just work through it, make it good. That was a challenge, to say the least.
I like what you did with the window. It's beautiful.
I'm feeling pretty good with the rear of the roof, and then Jack shows me these taillights he wants to use. These are freaking massive taillights. What the heck are they out of? I've never seen anything like it.
It's 70 Chrysler. I found him at the junkyard. He looked at me, what the hell is this? And I said, well, we're gonna try this. We're gonna put these two together and see if they fit on the truck.
You know, these taillights are quite a bit different than what you had. I thought we were just gonna like hole saw and put the other ones back in.
No, you gotta.
So you're switching up the whole bill on the back of the truck too, I see.
Yeah, well, that's kind of like how I am.
This kind of changes everything. I don't know where he's going with this, but we're gonna have to figure it out. To make these huge taillights work, I had to French them into the back of the truck. It wasn't something Jack and I talked about, so I kind of took a leap. I was hoping he liked it.
Whoa.
Hey.
Whoa.
What do you think? Is that gonna work?
Wow. So I take off for a day or two and look what happens. This is beautiful. Wow. There's only one thing wrong.
What's that?
It's upside down. No, I'm just kidding.
Okay,
Yeah,
I put it in the other way, and it was like,
fooling.
wait a second,
No,
it looks
this
like a
is-
smiley mouth.
No, this is perfect, man. Well, when I walked in and looked at them, I was shocked. I thought it was going to be good, but it's spectacular. I'm elated. I can't believe that in 3 weeks we've gotten this far. Beautiful, Jesus.
The camera doesn't come out until Jack's happy with it. Once that digital camera's on the scene, you know we're on the right path. We are both on the same page with all the fabrication elements of this project, but the critical thing is the paint detail. We're doing something really far out, and we both have a difference of opinions on what color it should be.
This color here, that's sunset orange. I've got this idea for this color. Looks like a sunset. I went and bought a gallon of that, and that's the color we're going to use. This got a lot of metallic in it, a lot of fine metallic.
I think you're gonna have to add something. It's like almost a production car color. Need something to make it pop. Our difference in opinion on the paint scheme actually turned out to be a really good thing in the end, because we had two separate elements that came together in a great result. Gene Winfield really inspired the paint job on this. I'm not saying it rivals any of his fades, but it's pretty mellow. It's just the red gradually fades to black right into the rocker panels.
Ian wanted to surprise me with that fadeaway, and let me tell you, he sure did. It really looks good.
Jack was digging it. Right out of his pocket, first thing is his camera. So I know I'm on a good run here. It's been the story through the whole build, is that if he starts taking pictures, you know you hit the mark. The next project was for my friend Kai. He's got a bunch of motorcycles. He wanted to get his 1958 Harley-Davidson Sportster back on the road. Once we got into it, we were over at his house, and he asked me what I wanted to get in exchange for the labor. I want that.
You want that?
Yeah. That.
You want that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Naturally, I'm entranced by this early Harley, but just over my shoulder, there's a police motorcycle. KZ1000, that's a hot rod.
I've never really ridden it. I've had it for a little while.
Apparently Kai got this in a trade or something. I guess his buddy picked up a few of them at the auction. It's a typical scenario. These police bikes get decommissioned after a certain mileage, and somehow Kai ended up with one. This is a KZ1000. Did you ever see Road Warrior or Mad Max?
Yeah.
Well, that's what's going on underneath here.
Right. I'm just not a big Kawasaki guy, you know?
I'm not a big Kawasaki guy either. Well, look at that engine.
When Ian said that he was also interested in the Kawasaki, I was a little surprised. Yeah, you want it?
I see this thing as a stripped-down race bike. This thing is cool.
Well, I'll tell you what. You build that Sportster, you can keep that.
I'll do that.
I'll
It's a
trade
deal.
you for labor.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
This kind of turned into a battle of the bikes. I was going really radical on the police motorcycle. Kai's bike was pretty straight ahead, but it's exactly what he wanted.
Huh, this is pretty damn cool.
It's gonna be all right.
Yep, I think so.
You know, I'd say it's a close runner-up to the motorcycle that I'm building. It's a good-looking machine. You're definitely gonna take second place.
You think so?
Well, things got heated a little earlier in the day, you know, so I don't hold grudges, but I like to stab it back a little once in a while. So Kai's sitting there admiring the machine, and I'm thinking, you ain't seen nothing yet. Just look at that thing over there. You got your fiberglass drooling off the rear fender. I mean, that's got a look. It's kind of Sigmund and the Sea Monsters right now. It's pretty groovy.
Well, the way it looks right now, I don't think it's going to compete anywhere. I have seen nicer bikes, though, in my life. I can't say I've seen uglier ones.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
After Kai kind of jabbed me, I wanted to play a joke on him with his bike. It was a whole parts stash I got from my friend Gary, and there was just so much potential on Gary's shelves, I wanted to see it on this bike. I put him on the bike, and it's on. This is a 70s style deal. Nothing says commitment like all the details. See what I'm talking about? Not everybody is hip to the trip. Just needs like 10-foot long forks. And you're there.
Hey, Ian. How's it going?
Good, man. Got your bike just about ready to start.
Oh, man, check it out.
Did a little restyling.
Holy moly. Look at this thing. Fishtails and everything. This is terrific, man. I love this. This is great. When I walked in, I was really surprised at how the bike had changed. Yeah, he may have meant it as a joke, but I was digging it. I was loving it. Man, this is awesome.
The joke was on me. He walked in and loved it. I thought you were gonna hate it. I guess you're into it.
I love it. I love the fishtails. I love the sissy bar.
This weird prank actually resulted in a pretty darn good-looking bike. So it was sort of a debate between Kai and I. In the end, he really just wanted to go with something a lot mellower. So I put the exhaust I built on Kai's bike, but I was really itching to show him the progress on mine. So you remember my Sigmund the Sea Monster rear fender? That changed a little bit.
Looks nice, man.
Yeah.
Wow, this is smooth. I took a look at the Kawasaki, and I was actually really surprised at what he'd done. Man, this is
It's getting close.
It's nice.
In the end, I got my bike wrapped up. It's exactly what I was hoping for. It's just a good, reliable, powerful, fun-to-ride machine. The whole deal with this project was the transformation. You saw this kind of very upright police motorcycle, and I just took it all wrong and made it gnarly, a very aggressive machine. I knew what was inside of it, and I just let it out. Kai's bike turned out really cool. We got both bikes out here. They're running good. We're just testing them.
I love the way it looks. I just love the way it looks. It's old school. The general ride itself was exactly what I hoped for. You know, just smooth and has a lot of power. Well, Ian's bike, his Kawasaki, I mean, like I said, I didn't think in the beginning he was going to do anything with this thing. Ian, as usual, pulls a rabbit out of the hat or whatever you want to call it, and I actually got to ride it too. And I was really pleasantly surprised. It's a cool little bike.
It's a nice change of pace to build a couple motorcycles. I don't do it often, maybe not often enough, but I really like the cars, so I was ready to get back to them. Next project I did was with my friend Bill. What year is this?
This is a 1962, as I recall.
That's what I'm talking about. I guess it's an early 60s Ford Falcon window van. It's a short wheelbase. Looks like it was maybe from a utility company or something. It's bare bones inside, but it's a pretty cool looking ride. I talked Bill into working on the van as a concept to sell to fund another of his projects, and it just turned out to be way more work than either of us considered. I got a couple good ideas on how to get this thing back in action. The question is, how bad is it? All right, so I'm gonna start off on the front, because to me, it looks like it's hiding some secrets. Pull off the front bumper, turn signals, you know, trim stuff. Start sanding it. And that's where the story begins. There's a ton of filler in this thing. I'm doing the excavation here, you know, this is down and dirty. I thought I could sand it off, but it just got thicker and thicker. I ended up just cracking it off as brutally as I could. Yeah, it's all pushed in right there. Even though the van looks pretty good, you see it's hiding secrets. Some of my time in Egypt spent doing exactly this type of operation. I'd say there's been a traumatic event. This van ran into something, and then it was repaired really poorly. The easiest solution would be to get a replacement panel, but I think I can just take this thing, reformulate it, and put it back into place. The cool factor about this is that you're not your typical auto body procedure. I'm gonna fire up this torch and get medieval on it. This metal piece was created in a certain shape. The only thing that changed was the collision made it into a different shape. I want to bring it back to the way it was, and that's just done by a series of heating and hammering. The whole idea is I'm just going to fit it into place and then continue hammer and dollying it. The van came out really cool. We got it all finished up and it was ready to show to a potential client. Bill had somebody interested in buying. Brought up to Bill's, and just as I'm showing Bill the van, Jess shows up.
Holy cow.
See you again.
Yeah, good to see you, Ian. Hey, Bill. When I first walked up and saw the van, I was just kind of blown away. It looked perfect.
It looks like a plain white van on the outside, but the interior is all fitted out. It's deluxe. So we put curtain rods in there.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
So this is the Pendleton
yeah, the
flannel?
authentic flannel.
So I'm really impressed. I can't wait to take it to the beach. Let's drive it.
Good, let's do it. Let's close the doors up and jump in there and fire it up.
Oh, and we're off. So looking at the van from the outside and the inside and kind of being a spectator is great. The aesthetic is totally there. It's everything that I want. But it's not the feel of driving it. And so once you drive it, I was sold.
When we first started this project, I didn't know how it was going to end up. It got in pretty deep, but in the end, it turned out to be a really nice van. This next build came about in a completely different way. My friend Tom's putting on a charity car show, and I wanted to build something to support the effort. I went up to my friend Bill's house. He's always got a bunch of cool projects, and I knew he had some old trucks. In Bill's endless pile of parts, he's got a fire truck. Holy moly.
You know, I love the old fire truck because it's a roadster, and it's one of those keeps getting moved back project. I'm never gonna get around to it.
I really need to check this thing out. Pulled it out of the weeds, and it's in very good shape. I know the chassis got the look. And then seeing this body and the bedsides, I'm thinking giant hot rod truck.
I'm always excited to watch Ian and see his gears turning in his head and what he does.
These are the basic building blocks for my inspired project. I told Tom what I found, and he was up for the adventure. He wanted to give me a hand.
So I was thinking, man, it'd be really cool if Ian showed up to my car show, but now he's talking about building something.
The whole look of this project is how the body sits on the chassis. It's the look of the whole ride. So getting it in place, I could tell right away, and Tom agreed, this thing is way too tall. Look how freaking massive this body is.
Yeah, it looks kind of goofy up tall like that.
It is, it's way too tall. My initial thought was this was gonna be kind of a highboy style, real old school look on top of the frame rails. As soon as it was in place, I could tell it was not gonna be okay. That's why I wanted to put this body on. It's just way too big. When the whole truck is up in the air, the body looks kind of small, but now it looks massive. That close to the ground, it changes everything. The firewall looks like a freaking tombstone. It's gigantic. I think we gotta channel it.
Yeah, there's no question about that. It'll look so much cooler too.
Right, I'm talking about a hot rod, and you know the formula, man. Low, big and little tires, then lean. We gotta strip this thing down. It's looking good, but it ain't there yet. Both Tom and I agree, this big box on the back of the cab is not the look we're going for. First order of business is to chop it off. Channeling means you drop the body down over the frame. It gives the whole vehicle a lower profile. The compromise is the interior room. But I don't care about riding comfort. This is all about the look. We're channeling this sucker. Get it down. I'm just into it, you know. I love this plasma cutter. I'll use it all day long. So I got the shades on, you know, shields are down. I'm in the moment. Tom's yelling.
Woo, we got a fire in the fire truck.
Fire in the truck. I think he's just into the fire truck. I'm like, yeah. This is these wooden cars, man.
Yeah.
What are we gonna do about that?
Should we call the fire department?
So here I am, working on a fire truck, and I think, what would a fireman do? I went and got some water. Everything's solved.
You know, Tom, that's why I keep you around. So we got the fire out, the body lowered down, just as we expected, and it looks great. Now you're talking hot rod. That's perfect. What do you think about that, Captain? Is that gonna work?
Yeah, man, now it's looking like a hot rod.
It was a ton of work to bring this concept to life. I got this thing wired up and fired up. It's driving around. I'm ready to take it to the car show. Tom hadn't seen this thing in a few days, so when I pulled up this morning, he was really excited to check it out.
Oh man, I was blown away. It turned out awesome, man. You know, every time I've worked with Ian, I bring something to the table, but I take something home too. I either learn something when it comes to how to build or artistically. It helps me grow as a hot rodder and a car builder myself.
This next project was a build with my friend Stone. It was really unique in the fact that it had very little to do with a car. It was more of a sculptural project.
My name is Stone, and I am a metal fabricator and sculptor, and I build big, ridiculous things for festivals.
The initial concept is a series of sculptures that Stone did. It's called the One-Eyed Monster.
You know, the original state of the One-Eyed Monster was these small little sculptures that I used to hand make out of steel, and they were just little sculptures that I just kept showing in galleries.
He says to me he wants to build the most gigantic one-eyed monster sculpture ever, a driving 30-foot tall sculpture.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, I know Ian and I know myself, like if there's any kind of thought in our head and it was like, oh, that would be cool, literally the next morning we will be not drawing it out, we will start building it.
So this is below the decks of the One-Eyed Monster, where all the mechanics and engine maintenance guys hang out. This thing's a full mutant. It's a 28 Ford Model A frame that I put a Mercedes-Benz rear clip, independent rear suspension, with the engine and transmission, and then it has a Chevy truck front axle.
One of the biggest, craziest reactions that I get, besides what it is, I mean, it's obviously like, wow, what is that? That's weird. But when you tell them that it's an actual car, or you don't even tell them nothing, you just get up in it, you start it, and you start driving through a crowd, and they're like, what the, you know, and you're like, exactly.
All the Stone sculptures are like a spherical body, and to make it proportional to what he wanted to do, we had to build like a 16 or 18-foot diameter sphere. It's all aluminum flat bar rolled on edge to create a series of like pie pieces that form this huge sphere.
Ian's part, like one of his big parts, is like more of the stuff that you don't really, I mean, you see it, but it's inside the car. And that's transferring all of the controls from, you know, a 4-foot range up to 14 feet in the air and actually make it functional.
You drive it kind of pirate ship style. It's this huge A-frame, you're 15 feet off the ground, so all the controls and the steering are upstairs. So we made 2 lenses for the eyeball in the same way I was doing the bubble tops and taillights on the other projects. For these, I just made a round oven. We used the same barbecue style thing and just blew these circular ones as to Stone's specs. You know, he knew what the diameter of the eyeball was gonna be, and we just made a ring and a backing plate and inflated them.
It is actually kind of complicated because it's colored, but it's translucent. You know, you don't want to paint something because during the day it might look great, right? But at night, that will not look that great 35 feet in the air. You need to light it from behind. So even though this looks like it's all painted, it's actually totally translucent. So any light will penetrate any of this paint. We created our eye socket out of like stuff that we just made here in the shop.
Putting this thing together is a lot of effort. It's a full day setup, but the real reward is the sun sets, you get up in the cab and you're cruising around. I mean, just that, it's a really cool vehicle. It's totally fun.
It's worked out perfect. It's exactly what it needs to be, and that's a spectacle of this crazy thing that no one else has ever seen.
Working with stone was a good change of pace because this was pure art. Most of the clients I work with are more car guys. This was a full mechanized sculpture, and that's cool. The next project was for my friend Don. He had an old 22 Ford C-Cab and a pile of old parts.
As old as it is, it's in pretty darn good shape. I've got the frame for it, got some of the fenders.
Oh, wow.
Yes, this is what started this whole idea.
This whole thing started with Don finding this manual hand crank. It's a tow truck winch. It's dated like 1930 or something.
Well, that winch has been sitting in storage for 33, 34 years now. I always thought it'd be really cool to have a vintage tow truck, basically to move stuff around here on the compound.
Every project has some sort of impetus, the things that get you interested in building. This hand crank did it for me. I think if we build the whole truck to reflect this era, I think we come up with something really cool.
Look at that, just like a glove, Ian.
We've got parts from like 4 different decades, and there's a lot of space to fill. There's so many different parts here, it could go in a million different directions. Ultimately, this is going to be a functioning tow truck, so I started working on the rear. I was building the boom, and then Don shows me this gas tank he wants to use. The tank Don showed me is just kind of generic. It looks like something that should be under the bed. This truck's got one lacking area between the bed and the cab, and I think building a custom gas tank is going to set it off.
Ian has his own ideas on how this is going to look, and I have my own ideas too, so I'm a little concerned about it.
Move it. Go on. Sorry, Charlie. I've built a lot of different gas tanks over the years, but for this truck, I got a really cool idea for like an old school oval gas tank. Let's see what happens. From the start of my interest in metalworking, I was really trying to build stuff from scratch, you know, by myself. The reason I started using found objects is because there were curved shapes of metal that were way more accessible, so I could get into the actual building of larger components instead of focusing on these small details on curving metal. Back in the day, they were making some cool stuff out of very basic materials, so I built the thing the same way. Kind of caveman technology, but it works. It's a stamped steel cap. I wanted to make this tank and the brackets to hold it look like something you'd see on a vintage work truck. What I'm looking to accomplish here is match this radius with the mellow curve, and then I'm going to pull it tight over a piece of pipe. That way I'll have more of an egg shape instead of a perfect circle. It just depends what you have to work with, but it was just easier to start from scratch because we had it custom built in proportion to this vehicle. That's what we got, dog.
It's interesting the way that ties in between the cab and the bed of the truck to have that space taken up by a fuel tank. It looks absolutely perfect and vintage for that vehicle, too.
It's little steps like this that can convert a man like that to the creative process. It's a small victory in this grand war. And in the end, the truck came together really cool.
Ian nailed this thing. It's unbelievable. The stuff that I gave him to work with, he knocked it out of the park. I mean, look at that truck. It is just absolutely beautiful. There's stuff from the 40s. There's stuff from the 30s. There's stuff from the 20s, and then the drivetrain and frame is from the 60s. Working with Ian on this project really opened my mind to a lot of things, and this project came out killer. I mean, it came out way better than I expected it.
Next project was for my friend Mark. He shows up with this trailer full of parts, so I wasn't sure what he wanted to do.
You know, I'm very fortunate to be one of Ian's clientele. I like Ian just to let his creativity take over the project, because however radical it becomes, the better it is. Love your weather down here, man. This is gorgeous.
Came down from Canada, and he's into the wild stuff. Definitely not into the restoration aspect of things, and that's right up my alley.
I can show you this before we actually show you the project to be. Originally, this whole idea came about by a drawing, and he's the only one that I can think of that could actually pull this one off.
He said it was a Volkswagen.
It's a Volkswagen.
Shows me this drawing of this pretty wild cartoon hot rod. I'm all on board. So it's like a front-engine Volkswagen bus hot rod thing. Just like the Ed Roth monster cars, this is right in that vein. It's just a new style on it. And I think pushing it forward is always really cool. So I was excited to see what Mark had in the trailer.
This isn't like the last thing I brought you. Okay. It's in a little more disrepair.
That's a mighty short Volkswagen you got there. It was not what I expected. Here come the clowns. Must have been a rare factory option. Mark pulls out this shortened VW bus and just a ton of other random parts from the trailer.
So I thought, well, let's throw AMC running gear in a Plymouth frame, and then now we're gonna put a Volkswagen body on it. You know, let's mix up all of it.
I like having clients that are all on board. You know, they think I can accomplish anything. Unfortunately for me, the anything gets wilder and wilder. The big challenge is to make it look like the drawing. The stuff Mark's pulled out of the truck looks nothing like what we're going for.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be a one-of. I have my own ideas of the way this thing is kind of gonna look. To me, it's kind of rat rodish. I said, Ian, let's make this rat bus.
Mark's talking about rat rod. He wants something kind of easy to build. You know, I'm looking at this drawing and I'm seeing full custom show car, like all the way.
My time frame's kind of short. I'm kind of rushed down here to drop this off.
This is just a quick pit stop for Mark. He's heading back up north, so I got free reign to make this thing happen.
That's the excitement. Didn't Forrest Gump say it's, you get a box of chocolates, you never know what you're gonna get? Well, that's kind of the way it is with me and Ian.
Mark headed back to Canada and just let me go on this project. My whole concept was to make it look as much like the drawing as possible, make it drivable, and as wild and far out show car as I could muster. I got the whole front windshield established. The next big challenge is the rear portion of the cab. The drawing doesn't really show what's going on back here, so I'm leaving that open to my interpretation. I got a cool idea where I'm going to utilize the rear tailgate of the van and split it in half and make two. The portion with the rear window will be back here, and then the lower portion with this detail of the body sheet metal will stay here. Being that the cab is so much narrower, the whole rear window frame and the rear hatch have to be reconfigured. It'd be nice to just cut it in half and put it in place, but all the proportions are changed. Taking all the leftover pieces of the car and just refitting them in a way that the hinge mechanism will work and the rear hatch will open and close smoothly. It's just way smaller. So, you want to ride this thing, don't you? I know I do. That opens, you got your breeze. There's room to cruise, man. It's gonna totally work. This, hands down, was the biggest build of season 2. It's a huge amount of fabrication for such a little vehicle. This thing's wrapped. This is a toy come to life. Mark is out of his mind. Johnny is totally charged up about this.
It's the coolest thing I ever seen. I'm stoked for Pomona.
I can't wait for that first reaction from people when they see it.
Up to this point, it's been a static piece. Johnny drew it, it's been sitting in the shop, but it's an actual car, it drives around. It's time to take it to the car show. We're out here at Pomona. It's a swap meet car show, the biggest one in the world.
Shaka, good job. Pomona, man, beautiful swap meet. I've been cruising around there this morning. Reaction on the car is all thumbs up.
Probably the coolest car at the swap meet today. And cool, and way different. You know, I love it.
I had never seen it outside the shop until today. So the windows absolutely glow in the sunlight, and it was like a beacon. People were hypnotized, they were drawn to it, and everybody was digging it.
Well, I would think that's probably one of the most unique hot rods I've seen out here in the 30 years I've come out here. There's lots of different things out here, but that one's truly unique.
It's the cartoon driving experience that, you know, if you own this, you'll have that, you'll achieve that. It's wonderful, man.
This is kind of a step in a new direction for me because it's the wildest design I've ever worked on, and it was dictated by an artist. So it really makes me want to do more. Season 2 really expanded the role of my shop inspector. What do you think, Hellhound? Do you have anything to say? You don't even care. This is a breakthrough. It's really involved in the process. Wait a second. I think we're just gonna trade out somebody's water bowl. He's even offered up a few possessions of his own on occasion. Don't look so concerned, man. I'll get you another one. It's made everything that much better. Well, are we ready for delivery? No response. I'm getting a chimp, that's it. You're not holding up your end of the bargain. No, I'm gonna go get a small monkey. It's gonna be way more. No, I'm sorry.